All right, y'all. So I'm gonna try to keep this short, sweet, and simple. Today we're gonna be viewing Brian Tyler Cohen. This is his podcast. It's called No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I'm actually reading this information up. How I came across him, and it's crazy because I came across him because I seen him covering like a lot of Trump content, and by me just doing my research. That's what it's all about. Open to just learning because I'm not gonna say that I got it down packed. I'm only almost 2 years in of my journey of just learning the facts of who Trump really is and just everything. Again, I used to be a Democrat. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely now a Trump supporter. So, like I said, I was, just trying to see what I was going to react to today, and came across him. You know what I'm saying? So it's always good to keep researching. It's an ongoing learning experience. You are going to learn something new every day, and that's what it's all about, regardless of which side. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, y'all, it says breaking update on Trump's sentence in New York. So he's talking about this, and I just want to get a little insight. Um, and know what his podcast is actually about. He's also like an author, a writer, contributor. Let me see what it is say. NSNBC contributor, political commentator, actor, and yeah, what I just said. Okay, so further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and dive in and see what he has to say. Because again, if I'm not mistaken, maybe some of y'all know already, I believe he is a Democrat. So let's dive into the video.
News that we've been waiting for here as far as Donald Trump's conviction and sentencing are concerned in his New York trial. Can you explain what just happened here?
Yeah, Brian, we were waiting for Judge Merchan, who's presiding over Donald Trump's case in which he was convicted by a jury of 34 felony crimes that he committed to try to cheat in the 2016 presidential election. We thought we were going to get the big ruling from Judge Merchan about whether those guilty verdicts had to be thrown out because of the Supreme Court's absolute presidential immunity ruling, or whether they could proceed to sentencing. And instead, what we got is Judge Merchan saying, I'm going to give you all one more week. And he set it over for November 19th. And the reason he did that was because, believe it or not, both the prosecutors in Alvin Bragg's office and Donald Trump's defense attorneys jointly said, listen, he was just elected president, and now we have to figure out what the new rules and the new legalities might be regarding going to sentencing against somebody who is now president-elect. And so Judge Merchan said, fair enough, I'm going to give you one more week. But as of right now, Brian, we're still expecting to have Judge Merchan make that ruling about whether they can proceed to sentencing or whether he has to throw out all 34 felony convictions because the Supreme Court said president is essentially a king and can never be held criminally accountable for much of what he does while in office. I'm sure our viewers are already thinking to themselves, but wait a minute, he committed most of these crimes back in 2016 before he was in office. Bingo.
I'm just trying to figure out 34 felonies. That's a lot for one person, right? That's a lot. And then it's been committed back in 2016. Let's watch.
That's a great point, and one that the prosecutors have driven home, which is frankly why I expect Judge Merchan to ultimately rule that these 34 felony convictions survive the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling. And then the next question becomes, okay, if they survive, then we need to sentence Donald Trump on those 34 felony crimes, right? To which I'm afraid I'm going to have to say, not so fast. That might not be the way it plays out.
Well, to that point then, I mean, we have kind of two options right in front of us here. There's either that he moves forward to sentencing, or what happens in the other side. Could they, A, be thrown away, or B, are they just paused until after Donald Trump's presidential term?
Yeah, great question. And I think there's probably an A, a B, and a C. So A is Judge Merchan rules in a way we're not expecting, and he says, you know what, I've got to dismiss all 34 convictions because of the Supreme Court ruling. I think that unlikely, but if he does that, the case is essentially over. Now, technically, the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg's state court prosecutors, could begin the appeals process of that decision, but I think that's not terribly likely, and even if they did, it probably wouldn't be successful in any event. The other thing Judge Merchan can do is what I'm expecting him to do, rule that, nope, the 34 felony convictions survive the Supreme Court ruling, let's go to sentencing. In which case, Donald Trump's lawyers will probably try to immediately appeal and put a stop to the sentencing, which is presently scheduled for November 26th. And because the prevailing wisdom and the law and the procedure says that when a judge makes a decision on an immunity issue, that is generally immediately appealable by the defendant who suffers the loss when it comes to that ruling. So I have a feeling that's what Donald Trump's lawyer's next move will be. And then Judge Merchan will have to make the decision, okay, do I try to proceed to sentencing anyway, or do I just put the whole thing on pause? And I think the pause is likely. Here is the other thing that could happen. Let's assume that he denies the motion to dismiss. He says, I'm proceeding to sentencing. And then Donald Trump's lawyers appeal it. Donald Trump's lawyers have also filed a motion to dismiss, not just because of the presidential immunity ruling, but because he's been elected president. And the prevailing wisdom and the law in this area basically says if a state court prosecutor wants to proceed in a case against a sitting president, that prosecution has to pause until after that sitting president leaves office. So the other thing that could happen is Judge Merchan could say, okay, fine, I'm not dismissing. You go ahead and file your appeal. And here's what we're going to do. We're literally going to put this case in hibernation. We're going to have it pause for the entire time Donald Trump is the sitting president. And the minute he leaves office, the case will be revived and he will be sentenced. So that is another.
I think that it should just go with plan A and just throw them all out and just be done with it. Because here's the thing. We all know what has been taking place as far as with Trump. I mean, we've all been watching, been learning more and more about it. Last time I heard, they were trying to, clean up, get everything thrown out. But now they're talking about proceeding. To me, honestly, I would just go with A because, the amount of accounts that is put on this one man, how do I say this without getting in trouble? Because y'all know me. I just think it's ridiculous. And if the judge was smart, just throw him out. Wait, put him on hold until he finishes term. It's at this point, it's beginning to be a bit ridiculous. And that's just me and my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. What y'all think? What do y'all honestly think? Y'all let me know. Let's get into it.
Possibility, and actually, Brian, it's a lawful possibility. Whether Donald Trump would stand for it if he took office and became the day one dictator he has promised to become is anybody's guess, but those are the different options moving forward.
All right, well, Glenn, to that point, is it possible if Judge Merchan goes forward with the sentencing that we could actually see Donald Trump sentenced here, that sentence itself put on pause, put on ice, and then, January 21st, 2029, he might be responsible for reporting to the Bureau of Prisons for a 12-month prison term?
Brian, it's possible, but unlikely. I'm going to go to a greater possibility. Now, yes, Judge Merchan could say, I don't care that I'm supposed to pause the proceedings once you appeal my immunity decision. I'm going to go ahead and sentence you anyway, but not impose the sentence. That's called staying execution of the sentence. That's a thing in the law. I think that less likely. Here's what I think is a little bit more likely, and it would still provide some good news on the justice front or maybe some light at the end of the tunnel. So Judge Merchan could refused to dismiss it based on presidential immunity and based on the fact that he's president-elect. But he could pause the case and say, Trump, your lawyers, go ahead and file your appeal. Let the case remain in effect while that case goes up and down the appellate chain. And then assuming the case survives appeal, then Judge Merchan can say, okay, now we're going to leave the case on pause the entire time, and I'm going to set your sentencing date for, what would it be, January 2029, January 20th at, 1 p.m.
1 p.m., right. Yeah.
Shortly after you leave office. Obviously, that's, not going to happen precisely that way. But then Donald Trump would literally have his sentencing date hanging over his head the whole 4 years that he's in the presidency. And here's the thing. If you ask me if that's how the rule of law should apply, I would say yes. That makes perfect sense. Do I believe the rule of law will win the day and will be applied that way? Well, with Donald Trump willing to engage in any number of abuses of the rule of law, weaponizing his Department of Justice, and perhaps worse, again, I think it unlikely, but certainly lawful and possible.
On that point, is there any way that this sentencing could be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court? Right now, it's in the New York state court system. Is there any way that it could jump into the federal court system and get appealed up to the Supreme Court where they could protect him? And B, the question that everybody has, I think, is there any way more broadly, even if that's not the case, or even if it is, that Donald Trump could use the DOJ to prevent sentencing, which may be frozen, while he's president?
So to answer the first question, he could certainly jump into the federal system, and here's why. He is going to be making a separation of powers argument. Boiled down to its essence, he's going to say, listen, I know the state court is prosecuting me under state law. I am now the president-elect, and the Constitution says if there's ever a conflict between state court laws and federal laws, guess what? Federal laws win. So therefore, I should not be susceptible to a state court prosecution. That has the feel of a federal question that the Supreme Court would probably be really interested in taking up. So ultimately, could he jump from the state court appellate system into the federal system? I think that is a likelihood, quite frankly, if push comes to shove. And then your second question, Brian, could Trump use the DOJ to somehow interfere in the state court prosecution? Not lawfully, but it's Donald Trump. And look what he did, last time he was in power to corrupt and weaponize the Department of Justice to try to override the will of the voters in various battleground states. But here's the other thing, and I even hate to end with this, but Donald Trump said...
So I hear him giving his statement and everything, but at the same time, I'm following, and if we are all following him, he's giving a breakdown of what can possibly happen while Trump, has to go back in court, obviously, being the president and stuff like that. So I hear him giving his points, but I also hear him talking against him. You know what I'm saying? By what we just heard. If I need to rewind it back, I can. So, again, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. You know what I'm saying? They can say what they want to say, but at the same time, people will fact check. People will have to, how do I say this? You have to fact check. You have to, if you have to, go in and see where all of these accounts came at him and why they came at him. You know what I'm saying? You can't just take something and pin it on a person and take what this person is saying if you haven't really actually did the research for yourself to find out why all these were pinned to him. Why are they saying these things? You get what I'm saying? So that's just me. But following him, I see where he's, giving points of what could happen, but I also feel like he is, not down with Trump, if that makes sense.
He is entirely happy to use the military to go after his political enemies and opponents. So I just think, given everything Donald Trump has said, he will probably go to great lengths, lawful, unlawful, constitutional, unconstitutional, to stop all criminal proceedings against him.
Well, one way or the other, we are going to have some more news 1 week from now on November 19th when we hear again from Judge Merchan. Is that correct?
That is right.
Okay, well, we will bring that to you as soon as we have that news for those who are watching right now, if you want to follow along. And if you want to stay with us in this broader fight that we're going to be engaged in, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.
Okay. Well, that was pretty cool. You know, that was pretty cool. So what are y'all thoughts? What do y'all think about this entire situation? I know a lot of Trump supporters say that, this is just ridiculous, throw everything out. They attached all this stuff to him. They've been coming for him for a long time. What are y'all thoughts? So far, I see that Brian is just pretty much the guy that interviews these people on his channel or whatnot. But if you just ask me, like I said, at this point, it's ridiculous. Those just need to be thrown on out and let that man go ahead and serve his 4 years as he well deserved it, well earned it, and just keep it moving. I mean, 34. Are you serious? And I don't even know if it's just 34. That's just what they're saying. It may be more, right? It's crazy. Now I'm gonna have to dig in and see, like, where did the root of it even start? And I can ask y'all because I know y'all probably been following. And again, your girl is still very new, although it's going on 2 years. I'm very new. I'm always open and learning and stuff like that. But where did it start? He's taking it back to 2016. Is that where it started at? Where they started building all these? And did he not, beat majority of them? Like, where did these new accounts come from? That's what I want to know. Okay? So y'all let me know in the comment section. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, it's all about researching and learning and finding new people, whether they on one side or the other. That's how you research. That's how you learn new information. That's how you learn who someone is and even more new people. You know what I'm saying? Like today, I'm just strolling. I see his name. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? And then I go, searching, just finding out what does he do. And I forgot to mention that it's saying that his podcast was first to actually do an interview with Joe Biden. So you see what somebody popping them on your feed does, and then you just tune into them, and then you find out information. It's just that simple. It's just that simple, y'all. So I hope y'all learned something from this. Let me know what you learned. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm open again. It's open in the comment section. Everybody has opinion. They're entitled to their opinion. One of my lovely friends on my channel said, although I don't agree with you on everything, Queen B, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I do agree with you. And that's fine. And that's what I love, because that's what it's all about. Y'all got to understand, I do have Democrat friends, and they do know that I voted for Trump this year. But the beautiful thing about that is we can still have a conversation to disagree, and we may never agree, but we can have a talk. And I'm like actually thinking about bringing some of them on here. You know what I'm saying? And like letting them tell their side of why they voted for Kamala and why. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I'm not finna beat them down because they decided to vote for Kamala, and they're not gonna beat me down because I decided to vote for Trump. But that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Two separate parties with two separate, mind frames of why they went for her and why I went with Trump, but we're able to talk about it and still be cool. Now, you can't be cool with everybody. Some friends you're gonna lose on the way. You're definitely gonna lose on the way. But the ones that don't see eye to eye with you, but y'all can still talk and still be cool, those are the ones you need to keep around.